You're listening to the Career Musician Podcast with creator and host, NOMAD. With 20-plus years of experience in the music industry, NOMAD has done just about everything to earn a living as a career musician. From being music director to celebrity artists, playing iconic arenas and stadiums, composing for film and TV, and even playing your average local club gigs, he's done it all. NOMAD's mission is to empower musicians across the globe with strategies for a sustainable career while blasting stereotypes, and to bring you tried and true wisdom from his colleagues in this crazy business we call music.
On this episode of the Career Musician Podcast, we have award-winning composer Sunna Wehrmeijer. Originally from the Netherlands, she resided in Los Angeles and did quite a few internships, as well went solo on her own, and then ended up in the UK where she resides now, composing for She-Ra and the Princess of Power and Spirit Riding Free Ponytails, both DreamWorks streaming series. In addition, her vocal stylings are featured in the Hunger Games projects Catching Fire and Mockingjay while she was working with James Newton Howard. She also discusses the realities of becoming a real composer while out here in Los Angeles attending the UCLA Extension program. And trust me, she has accomplished this goal. For more information of her credits, check out IMDb as well as her website, both listed in the show description notes. And without further ado, here is the talented Sunna Wehrmeijer. Sunna.
Yes.
Okay. I am not even going to attempt your last name.
That seems the general consent.
So please enlighten us.
Wehrmeijer.
Wehrmeijer.
Okay. Yes.
When you hear it, it's much easier to latch onto versus when you just see the spelling.
Yeah, I know. There's some random H's in there that, you don't expect.
So you are quite the composer with a long list of projects that you have worked on and accolades, and including the nomination most recently, or am I looking the Emmy nomination? Yes,
the Annie. Well, the Annie nomination was very recent. Yes.
Right. Okay. There you go. Well, amazing to have you on the Career Musician Podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. As we just discussed, I believe you are a true superwoman with 3 young children, a composition career, and a studio that you're building. I mean, wow, you're juggling.
Yeah, definitely juggling. dropping lots of balls, don't worry.
Well, you're crushing a lot of them too. So I think it all goes hand in hand. Absolutely. And we met through Derek Jones over at Megatracks.
That's right.
Right. So thank you, Derek, for that. Okay. I have a few questions that I like to go through, for each episode, and it varies as we go and per the guest. But basically, I just want this to be a fun conversation about you and your love of music and how you first got bit by the bug, the music bug, Talk a little bit about your history and what that was like.
Well, should I where do I start?
Yeah, I know, right?
Well,
so you're from the Netherlands. Yeah, yeah.
I'm from the Netherlands, yes. Which is awesome. Yeah, it is awesome, actually. Yes, I love being Dutch. It's great. I can say all kinds of stuff and just blame it on being Dutch. There you go. I definitely started, dicking around, for lack of a better, word, at the piano at a young age, just coming up with little tunes. I never thought I would actually do this as a living before I moved to LA at 23. I studied composition in the Netherlands, but also because I didn't really know what else to do. I never thought I could actually be a composer until I set foot in LA and just smelled the air and was really inspired by everybody around me. But
That's amazing.
The music bug was definitely... I mean, being from the Netherlands is great because it's a great country, but I mean, there's a reason probably there's no word for film scoring. You know, it's like scoring a film, like the verb doesn't exist because there's not that much made. And I felt I didn't fit in at the compositions because nobody liked John Williams, nobody liked Alan Silvestri, nobody liked melody. That was just not the thing to do. And I love all those things. That's what that's what I live for. So I never really fitted in, like I said, until I went to LA and found so many people who felt the same. So I think I'm very happy I went and stayed for a long time.
Well, that's awesome because us Americans, oftentimes we can be so single-minded. So it's nice to have people from other parts of the world come in and bring different perspectives and newfound appreciation for the craft itself.
Yeah, I mean, I love the American view on film and music. I think it suits me much better than the continental sound.
That's great. Did you have a primary instrument that you were always more drawn to growing up and in school, or?
I mean, I play piano. That's my The thing is, I wouldn't call myself a pianist. It's the thing that I play to use to compose on. I used to play guitar when I was younger, 16 and stuff, but it's not something I ever... I guess it wasn't really my thing. I mean, piano is still my go-to thing. I like to sort of mess around on instruments, but I think someone said once, the worse musician you are, the better composer you are. They probably said that because they were a terrible musician themselves. I don't play much for fun, if that makes sense. I compose for fun,
Absolutely. I had a similar conversation with John Powell. I've worked with him on several films, and on one of the breaks one time, on a lunch break, I said, "Hey, John, can I catch a quick podcast?" And, he was so nice to agree. And I was talking to him about that. I said, "Hey, man, sometimes I feel like I'm a fraud because I can dabble in this and that. I could do a lot of different things, but I never mastered one thing." And he said, very similar to what you said, he said, "You know what? No, you kind of have to be, a master of some. You can't be master of one. You have to be, jack of all trades, master of some."
That's right.
And I think that's really sums up what composers do, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I guess especially because it's not just composing what we have to do. We have to be creative in, arranging and all this technical stuff and, all kinds of new writing for new instruments that you would have never dreamed of ever using,
Right.
Including weird as, hammered dulcimers and stuff that you don't really learn much about them when you're 18 in school. That's what you're saying. That's the fun. I think that's what's fun of it. That maybe you would write something that's not even possible, but again, you'll find that out.
Right.
When you give the guy a part, he's like, "Yeah, I can't do this."
Yeah, right.
This doesn't work.
But then again, even sometimes when you create those parts that are impossible to play, that's fun too because it's a whole unique sound, right?
Yeah, and you can always let that be synth bells or whatever. I'm a big fan of synth bells. It's like, try to put synth bells in everything. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. One of the things you said just a minute ago when you first arrived in LA and you realized, oh, shoot, I really can do this. I can be a composer, because initially you thought perhaps you couldn't. Can you expound on that? Because I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially the ones who are aspiring to do what you do.
Right. It's so weird to look back on. So I did the UCLA extension program, film scoring program. Also just, something to do and obviously for a visa, so I could stay in LA, all that fun stuff. But it's like it's not even that you have to do one of those classes to learn. This is going to sound ridiculous, but I felt I had all that stuff in me, but it was never, I never knew how to get it out. So mostly by the friends that I made. That I looked at how did that stuff, how they got it into the DAW and how they got it on paper. Everything just started to make sense to me, and it's a combination of all those things. Sure, the classes help, but also meeting composers and being around them and getting to score little shitty-ass short films and just actually doing it, I think all those things together all contributed to, this dream becoming, an actual like living dream. Like, okay, I'm doing this, and I started off doing free working for free, doing internships and, getting a sandwich for Jim Dooley and, all that stuff, all that silly stuff, not having a place to sit, so they're standing in the hallway at remote control, just, being invisible, being out the way, not being in anybody's way. And
Sure.
basically sucking it all up and seeing everything I had to see or whatever.
Well, you crushed it. You did it, and you're doing it, and it's amazing. So, yeah, that's great. It's great to everybody else looking and say, wow, it is achievable.
Yeah, it is achievable. I mean, I guess fairly soon. I never, not become a composer, not doing it was never an option. Just like, as a foreigner, you have to do a lot of crap with the whole visa thing that I mentioned. It's just, it's expensive. You need to get lawyers. It's a faff. And there were a few moments where I wasn't sure, it wasn't looking great. But going back was never an option. I just never considered it to be an option. And weirdly, I always felt that helped. I always thought, like, if I really start focusing on the worry and all that stuff, that is just a distraction from the goal, if you know what I mean.
Yes, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Right? So
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, if you believe I can do this, then you can do it. If you believe, I can't do this, well, then that's going to happen too. So that's what I get from a lot of the guests. Everybody's saying there is no plan B. And I always live my life the same way. And I love it. There's no plan B. We just got to do it. Like you say, suck it up.
Yeah, there isn't. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess I've never said it like that. No plan B. That's quite but that's true. There is no. I still don't have a plan B, and now I have three small children who, want stuff like food and stuff.
That's all right. They're going to grow up to be little proteges. So.
Oh yeah. I'll have them fix my rig when they're 8. Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. Oh, this is great. So the UCLA extension program, it really helped you put the thought and the concept into action. And then what was the trajectory after that? You're interning and you're studying. How did it all build up?
So a few internships. I ended up at Chris Young, because everybody at some point in their life ends up at Christopher Young. I was there for a few movies and then I did the ASCAP film scoring workshop. So again, more people, more places, more inspiration and inspiring people. And then that summer I just responded to a Craigslist ad for someone looking for a composer, which was Mark Streitenfeld, which is a job I got as an assistant. So we did Robin Hood and Prometheus, and I was there for a few years. And then, just to the point that I was, not burnt out, but pretty tired from, working 24 hours. Yeah, not 24 hours a day, but, it's 7 days a week.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's an intense gig at that stage. But then I ended up at James Newton Howard for years, which was amazing. That was the best possible place to end up, to leave being an assistant, because that's the last place that I did, who I did that for. And I got to write on a bunch of films. He was always very fair and giving cue sheets and credit. It's great. He has a very small, group, small team. And, he obviously has you on your toes, but it's J&H, so that's fair enough. It was great. I've learned so much from him. He has a very similar way of his process is very similar. His brain works. He writes very quick, and I write very fast. I've always done that, which is not always a good thing, but that's just how I work.
I'm similar. I can relate to that.
Really?
I like moving quickly. Do you commit, or do you go back and analyze after you write it?
No, I don't analyze. No.
Same here. I just commit and keep going. Right? Yeah.
It's like oh,
it's done.
That's it. I know. I've done it. That's
Yes.
it. And I mean, I think the good thing about that is going with an instant gut feeling, and don't faff, because I do that. I do go with the gut. Like, this is what it needs. The only time I'll go back and change is obviously when it's requested by a director or a producer. Obviously, I will change it.
Of course.
But I think that's part of,
I love it. It's perfect. It's perfect.
So where are we now? So this is 2014. So that's when I had my first baby. And then I think I stayed for a few more months at James, and then, I started for myself, because it's not really a job you can do with a small baby. It's not like there's, rooms to pump breast milk at James Newton Howard Studios, I mean, I did it anyway, but it was a little strange.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and then I basically found myself a manager and
Nice.
just did a million demos, and at some point got a show. So
That's amazing. Okay, so that is, again, very encouraging, because it can be done. And what I always like to say, especially to the younger aspiring generations, trust the fact that you put in the time. You did all the prep, you studied your craft, you've been working on it. Now just be confident in that, take the necessary steps, and it'll happen. And that's what you did.
yeah, and doing a million demos is just part of it, and it's unfortunately what we all have to do. I mean, I guess John Williams doesn't have to do that, but unless you're John Williams, the demoing stage is just like actors need to audition. It's just
That's right.
and you will do a lot before you get a gig. And I still do them, and I get rejected all the time. It feels great. No, it doesn't feel great at all. But it's just it's just how it is. It's just part of it.
That is so true, and so important for everybody to remember. Like you said, it keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, and you can't really dwell in it either. I got a huge bummer recently. And it was very close to a very cool thing, and then, some other composer became available because of the pandemic. So if the coronavirus wouldn't be there, I would be scoring something very cool. So that didn't happen. So I just said to my husband, who's also a composer, I'm going to give myself a day to mourn this, and then tomorrow, chin up and let's move on, and something else will come.
That's awesome. See, I love how you put it in a little box. You said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to commit to it and then move on. That's great.
Yeah, I don't think you have to completely ignore the way you feel about something. Sure, it's a bummer, but again, dwelling on it, there's not much point to it either. So
Right. Very similar to this concept that you're talking about. How about when you submit, especially when you're submitting for a pitch, you're trying to get it? I always like to say submit and forget. Literally, once you hit the send button, forget that you did it, right? Or because otherwise you drive yourself nuts thinking, oh my gosh, I want...
yeah, I think there's this place in my brain, sort of a back shelf in my brain where it lives. And it's sort of like, if I didn't hear anything for a week, I'm, text my manager, just like, did you check in yet? Did you hear anything? And obviously she hasn't, otherwise she would have told me. So yeah, it lives very small, sort of in my brain, but some I completely forget about. And then because I use this demoing program where you can see that people listen, or you can see that people download. So obviously, if it gets downloaded and listened to, that's great. But sometimes I spend hours and hours on something and no one will ever listen to it, which is very sad.
Yeah, it is frustrating.
Oh God! But it's like, okay, well, there you go.
All the pitfalls of the job. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just part of it. Yeah, that's the whole package. That's the reality of it.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about your process. Do you do full mock-ups in the box, as we say? I know you use Cubase, you mentioned. Do you do the full mock-up and then send it off? for transcribing and everything, or to your copies? Or how do you like to work?
Well, like the shows that I'm doing or have finished, like She-Ra and Spirit, that's all in the box. The only thing I recorded for that is guitar, and then on She-Ra my own vocals, which I just do here. Did I record anything else? I don't think the occasional source cue, a couple of things, but no, it's mostly it's in the box. So, awesome. It's in the beginning. I just come up with a template and sounds and add to it throughout the first many episodes. And
speaking of your vocals, I love the fact that you are the featured vocalist on Catching Fire, the Hunger Games.
Right. Yeah, and the other two, the Mockingjay ones. Yeah, that was
Mockingjay. So the whole series, the whole Hunger Games
aside from the first one, that was before my time. But yeah, and that was very random. So that was in a time when I worked for James, and he was doing Catching Fire, and he wrote this really lovely cue, and he put this solo sample on it, which sounded awful. So I just thought one morning I'll go in the office like really early. I think I got there at 7 a.m. before he got in. I just thought I'll just record myself, replace the sample, so he has a better placeholder. Just to be eager beaver, And never in a million years expected him to say, "Oh, that's great, I'll keep that." And like, "Well, what do you mean you'll keep it?" He's like, "For now." It's like, "No, we can put that in the movie." My jaw dropped. I just couldn't believe it. I really thought, because he was looking into all kinds of fancy singers. I mean, it's still, and then I got to do it again on the Mocking. I mean, that actual recording of me that morning that I recorded myself, that's what's in the movie. That's just...
Don't you love that? That speaks to the same thing of just doing it quickly, getting it done, and committing.
Well, yeah, I know. I guess maybe because it was so me, I guess so. Yeah, like you say, that came from the gut,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's amazing. Was he nonchalant about it? Was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great, I'll keep it," or was he excited, a little bit excitable, or was he kind of,
I mean, I don't think he would ever be too excited because I was still his assistant. He didn't want me to make me feel too good about myself, obviously.
Right.
But then he said many times after that, how happy he was with it, and even that he came to our wedding, and he did a speech, because I guess that was just after Catching Fire or something, and he said how he told the story how, from his point of view, how he was worried that he had no idea who to get for the singer, and then out of the blue, I had done it already, basically. So that was very, awesome. Very kind of him to say. Yeah.
Very cool. That's incredible.
Hi, I'm Sunna Wehrmeijer. I'm a composer, and you're listening to the Career Musician Podcast.
In the music industry, there are so many avenues to travel. Join host NOMAD as he dives into the crazy world of entertainment, going behind the scenes to gain insider knowledge of how to maintain a healthy career in the music business.
You're listening to the Career Musician Podcast by NOMAD.
All right, and then, like you said, you mentioned, look, your catalog of work speaks for itself. It's beautiful. All the listeners can go to your website and to IMDb. But you also mentioned, the last two shows that you've been working on in the box, which are She-Ra and Spirit. Yes. So can you talk a little bit about the actual reality of landing a TV show, a recurring series, or streaming, whatever, and what's the timeline like? It's very, I know from experience, but I want for the listeners to know, it's very time crunching. How do you manage that, and do you without divulging too much, but what kind of a workflow do you put yourself on, schedule wise?
Right. So the good thing about those two shows that it's both DreamWorks, so it's both shows had a similar execution, the way they did everything. So basically it's 2 weeks for an episode to write version 1, So it's spotting. If you spot the episode on the Friday, 2 weeks later, version 1 is due. And then I guess then you have a week for version 2, and then a few more days for version 3, and then possibly the last couple of tweaks for version 4, which you just deliver with the mix by Derek Jones. Obviously, that's how you said Derek at the beginning. Derek has mixed all my shows.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Amazingly. And
yes, he's amazing at that.
yeah, absolutely. So that gets delivered to the stand. But the thing is, when these V's version 2s and 3s are happening, you're already on your next version 1. So there's always an episode you're starting, when you're finishing, and when you're fixing. So that's sort of the thing when it becomes slightly challenging. So at some point, I'll have my assistant do small tweaks, because there's no reason for me to open whole sequence, make one swell a bit bigger and print that. That's not, there's no point in that. And I in the beginning, I got like some actual rewrites, but once you sort of have everything down, I never really got proper rewrites. Jesus, I can't say the word. So then it was just tweaking stuff, Things are a little too intense. Things are not quite intense enough, or we don't like the sound of this tiggy bell or whatever. In She-Ra, I always try to put my trumpets in, and they always like, can you take those high horns out?
Oh, wow. So you'd put them in, but you'd get requests to remove them all?
Yeah, I mean, I would always try. Half the time, I think they were requested to be taken out. But, no, I just like my trumpets, I guess.
That's cool.
Well, that's sort of, I mean, I get the score against finished picture, finished animation, so that's nice. There's no,
Nice.
no editing to be done or whatever. No one's changing the picture. It's all locked. So that's very helpful, obviously. Yeah, I mean, that's basically.
That's amazing.
That's great. All right, so I'm going to rewind for a quick second. When you were in LA in the big studios, and whether you're even in the beginning, especially you're interning, and I know you have to be a fly on the wall. I would say eyes and ears wide open, mouth shut, right?
Right.
But as we progress and you get, you go up the ladder in your career, now, you're doing great. You have your own studio. Talk about studio etiquette, because I feel like a lot of again, I'll say it, the aspiring generation missed out on the big studio days when there's, a bunch of people in the room, working on the same project. And studio etiquette is a real thing, right? You don't want to speak out of turn, but you also want to be confident and let everybody know that, you know why you're there and you know how to handle it.
Right. I mean, just so I know which studio, like, for instance, at James Newton Howard, if we were doing, Maleficent, and Angelina Jolie came over and sat in the room and gave her notes, I won't be saying anything. I will be shutting the fuck up, Just
there you go. That's exactly what I'm trying to get across. Yes.
Hitting stop and, record and, making notes, and that's the only thing I'll be doing, Same with, After Earth, with Will Smith and M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah, no, I won't be saying anything. Unless, obviously, they start a conversation and are being polite to, ask me something, which I'll then politely give a short answer to. Yeah.
Right. See, I believe that's so important. I'm glad you said it.
I mean, I think you just need to learn about your own ego and when to basically, I'm not sure what the right word is, but there's no in a room like that. There's no place for my ego in that moment at the time.
Right.
And funny enough, now I have assistants. Now I sort of understand that better because,
Yes.
Yeah, because if they speak up when they shouldn't, you're kind of thinking to yourself, oh shit, would you just shut up, please?
Yeah, and this actually, I mean, I guess that happened when I was still in LA and brought an assistant who worked for me very briefly. Very nice guy, but it didn't work out. But he, brought him to the spotting session to basically take notes. And we're starting asking all these questions. Like, oh, can you just stop and can I just get the time code? And I'm like, okay,
Yes.
that's no, that's not the time and place. Like, we don't want to waste their time, so we just need to write down what they say, and not ask all these questions. Yeah, so it's interesting. I guess I find it interesting to have that whole shift from being on that side to now being on this side, and now things just make more sense sometimes about how I was sometimes treated. I always treat everybody very fairly, just so you know. I always give out cue sheets, and I never shout at anyone, absolutely not. And I've been shouted at many times in the early years. Sometimes, I guess sometimes maybe they were right, I just fucked up. So that's, yeah.
And I think it's okay to it, like you said, check your ego. Just know that you are going to fuck up sometimes, and it's okay. We all go through it.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's how. Yeah, that's how you learn, unfortunately. And I guess with people who work for me, they're gonna mess up, and that's how they learn. And that's okay.
Right.
That's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, shifting gears, I do want to tell you, aside from your talent, your music is beautiful, by the way. I mean, your scoring, everything is just amazing.
Thank you.
And you have the website to match it. Your website looks just as good as your music. So in other words, my point is you have a great presentation. And as you were saying earlier, you do a lot of demos to get the work. And then once you get the work, the ball rolls. But you still have a great platform to put all of your work on display. My point, let's talk about business acumen. I do feel like some of what we have to do is have a sense of marketing for ourselves and for our work, which so oftentimes goes against the very beings that we are as creatives.
Right.
We don't give a shit about showing, oh, look what I made. We don't care. Like, we just want to create, right? We want to be in our own creative bubble, but it's a dichotomy, and you've done a great job. So can you shed some light on that,
Oh gosh.
I know I'm asking annoying questions.
No, that's fine. I guess I'm just thinking. It's one of those things that, whenever I need to add a track or add a credit or do anything to the website, I basically have to shoot myself for that. I mean, it's such an annoying thing, and it sounds so dramatic, but I'm not gonna. Whoever did the website, I'm not gonna say to them, "Can you put this on?" Because typing the email is just as long as doing it myself.
That's
And in the end, I want, in the end, I want to decide, which thumbnail and which MP3 I want to put on there. And just like with demos, I just do them myself because that's, I guess I just want it done a certain way or whatever. And that's the controlling nature of composers, which is not useful at all. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but it's necessary. I guess it's basically what you already said. It's the same thing with adding credits to IMDb. I guess happens automatically now, so that's nice. People, whoever does the show is adding it. So I guess that's different from 10 years ago, where I had to do that myself.
You had to go in, yeah. But the other aspects of the business acumen, like you said, you have a manager, and knowing when and how to delegate. That's just as important.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, hiring someone to help, well, it costs money and stuff. So obviously, if you're very early in your career, that's not an option. But I think when I got the second show, I hired someone because I also was I pregnant. I mean, I'm always pregnant when I get a show. It's a weird thing. So I always think about which show it is. Did I just have my second baby? So yeah, I wasn't gonna can't do the whole 7 days a week with small babies, and I wasn't gonna do that. So I decided relatively early on, I'm not gonna do my own stems. I'm not gonna stuff like that. I still always listen to the mixes that Derek did, and.
Do you have your assistants come into your studio, or do you send it out to them?
No, so it was a bit different in LA because most of the time I was in LA, and then so I worked from home. My husband, so we had 2 studios at home, and then the assistant came to our house as well. So now we're in England, so now we have 1 studio at home here in the countryside, and 1 in town. So one of us will work there, and the assistant is in town, basically. And then I had a remote assistant in LA until recently, which we've now stopped because it's easier to just do it here and do it face to face, I guess. Yeah. Was that the question? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. And sometimes uploading and downloading large files, that's in and of itself, that's just a drag, you know.
Yeah, but then again, we all work from Dropbox, so we're all accessing the same stuff, which is very handy. Yeah, there's not really. I mean, unless you didn't switch your computer on and Dropbox has to sync for an hour, that's really annoying. But
Right.
yeah, this is. I mean, surprisingly, having had the assistants in LA, with me being here for a while, it worked surprisingly well. Just by, I guess I was surprised that worked because we left the rig there. It's yeah. I mean, it is fascinating how that just works.
Isn't it? It is, yeah. Well, you know what? One thing with Dropbox that really helps is Smart Sync. So now all the files don't have to be downloaded to each hardware computer. Right?
That's right.
And they can live in the cloud, and that makes it a lot more convenient. Because I know a lot of times our hard drives just get jammed up, and then it's too much information. And you're like, wait a minute, I just bought 200 terabytes. How can I be out of room already?
God, tell me about it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well, very cool. Okay. So, and then you said a little bit more about your workflow. Cubase as your primary platform?
Yeah, so Cubase is primary, and then I always use Ableton, Rewire, which is something I picked up from James Newton Howard. He does that in the beginning. I thought, what is this strange piece of software? Whenever I started there 9 years ago or whatever it was. But now I can't live without it. And often I will have, like if I start a new show, like She-Ra, I had someone basically make sounds for me. So make loops. I'll say, can you make, some raw synth, arpeggiate, whatever, just name something, just to not have to use Omnisphere and stuff that sounds the same as everybody else, just to have some go-to percussion stuff or ticks or, fun stuff or, whooshes and swells.
Yes.
All those things. And Ableton is so easy because you can just, it syncs to your tempo. And it's great. I love it. And then video runs in Pro Tools, basically. That's it. Yeah. And I have VE Pro. That's where I have all my samples.
Awesome. I think something for the listeners who might not know, something for them to be aware of is creating sample libraries, if you will, for a new project is a common practice. I know I did a sample library. I was a part of a sample library collection for Kung Fu Panda, where I played the Chinese mandolin, the pipa, and it was with John Powell and Hans Zimmer. So there was a group of us. I think there were 6 of us, and we just played all through the instruments so they can get the various tonalities. And I think that's a big part of the process, right?
Yeah, getting your sounds, exactly, because I think sounds can be very inspiring, new sounds. Right. And I think as soon as you have access to, it can be existing libraries, because the thing is there's so many out there, and there's so many obscure little things that people recorded. Yeah. So, if you don't have the means to have, to pay for or whatever, just for any aspiring people out there, there's so much. And the thing is, because there's so much, the way we all use it will always be different from each other. That's what I think. If you and I are given the same packs, you're going to do something completely different with it than I would do. And that's why I'm always, I always think like there's enough for everybody out there, like, yes, it's very strong competition, but there's so much work, and there's, even though we have all access to the same sounds, we will sound different from each other. And, I'm not that obsessed with being the most original ever sounding composer, because I think whatever I will do will fit the picture the way I see it,
In your unique way.
In my unique way, yeah.
I think my question to Rap was going to be words of wisdom, and I think you just nailed it. That's it. Because I do believe a lot of us, it could be discouraging, because, there's a giant amount of supply and perhaps not as much demand, but the way you just portrayed it is really brilliant.
There you go.
So everybody's unique, and even if you're given the same set of tools, it's going to be different, right?
Yeah. I guess so. I mean, I think, gosh, I can't remember. I read this in the book once also. It's like, oh, but everybody has scored like this, something like this before. It's like, oh, it's not been done by you, Yeah, it's just like whoever is out there thinking like, oh, but, John Williams going to do it much better. The job's going to go to him. I don't know why I keep referring to John Williams, by the way. It's just one of them.
One of many.
It's like, you know what? It's not been done by you yet. I think if you just sort of tell yourself that, I think it, can lift yourself up, I suppose.
It's not been done by you yet. I like that. That's great. That's it. I'm holding on to that one. That's good.
Maybe I'll write it down for my children so I have one sensible thing to say to them.
I love it. Hey, would you mind if we do some rapid fire questions just for fun real quick?
Oh, yeah. You're not going to get anything sensible, but go for it.
Okay. Your favorite food?
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. It's tapas.
Tapas. Love it. Favorite libation?
Favorite what?
Fancy drink.
Favorite adult beverage?
Oh, adult beverage. Oh, Jesus. See, I'm rubbish. I mean, I love beer. I'm a beer drinker. I like beer.
Oh, see, I was gonna say beer because
Really?
you're Dutch.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Any particular, like a darker stout or a lighter, lager or?
Well, I like lager and pilsner.
Very cool. All right. Are you into sports? Favorite sport?
Darts.
Darts. That's cool. Hey, it's perfect to play at the pub.
I know.
With
There
a
you
lager.
go, with the beer and the darts. Oh, God, I know.
Okay, this next question, please don't be offended. But assuming you had any, how do you spend your free time?
How do I spend my free time? Aside from hanging out with my children, which is the politically correct answer, is I'm a really boring person. I like boring things such as reading a book or
That's great.
binging a series or walking
fun.
or even the occasional puzzle, though lately, well, the other day I did one and then realized this is an absolute pointless exercise. And then I sort of, I think I'm off it for a moment because I thought I make this thing and then I put it back in the box. What the hell?
It gives your brain time to formulate and think and relax in a different way, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. As I, that it's sort of mind numbing and just. I mean, I love to watch absolute piss on TV, just ridiculousness. And I just started a vegetable garden, so there you go.
Oh, very nice.
I'm like an 8-year-old woman, so I know.
That's perfect. That's perfect. What activities do you enjoy on long flights besides sleeping?
Long flight. Well, again, I usually have a bouncy small person on my lap, but if I don't have one of those on a long flight, because they'll definitely eat up hours.
That's right.
Well, just thinking about death or.
That's a good one. I like it.
I spend a lot of time thinking about death, thinking about life, and then thinking about death again. I was surprised. Does nobody else always think about death?
I don't like to fly, so it comes across my mind. I mean, I've flown my whole life, obviously, being a musician, but I'm like, well, what would happen? It sucks. Anyway.
I know. Yeah, I know. I guess I try to then watch a movie, not to constantly think about death. Yeah, there you go.
All right, what's the latest piece of music that you've listened to that you haven't worked on?
Piece of music as in a score or a song?
Anything, score, band, artist, whatever.
Well, my friend...
I know, it's a tough one.
It's a very tough one, yeah, because I don't have loads of time to listen to music. My friend recommended someone called, I think his name is Gregory Porter. He's a singer, and I listened to some songs, and they were amazing. This was like yesterday. That's why I might have gotten the name. It's definitely Gregory, and I think it was Porter. But I also sometimes will say his name was actually, John Harris. I sometimes mess names up, but yeah,
It all blurs together.
it all blurs together. Yeah.
All right, TV show or movie that you've been streaming lately? You mentioned sometimes you do that.
Yeah, I watched Little Fires Everywhere, which I thought was really good. And I just watched, I mean, this was in the UK. It's called Normal People. And I don't know if this aired, and Killing Eve, of course, which I think in the US is very big as well, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I'm on Billions right now from Showtime. So
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet.
it's cool. Eskimo does the score, so I like listening to his use of space. He does, it's very, very sparse. I like that. So anyway, all right. Shopping, online or brick and mortar? Of course, sans pandemic.
Oh, definitely online.
Yeah, I guess so, because you're so busy, yeah.
So busy, and I have a one store. I always, when I find I cannot do shops I'm not good at it. I get overwhelmed. I can't decide. I just stand there, waste time, and then I'm obsessing about wasting time. I can't find anything. No, but then I also waste a lot of time with online shopping. But yeah, no.
Oh man, I don't know. There's like this thing about indecisiveness that kills me sometimes. I feel like I'm so indecisive. I just want to strangle myself. What the heck, All right, so a dream collaboration. You've collaborated with many greats. Do you have a dream collaboration that hasn't happened that you think, oh, this would be fun?
I mean, with another composer or for like a movie or whatever?
Anybody. I don't care if it's Freddie Mercury from Queen. Anybody, dead or alive.
Well, you spoke about Hunger Games earlier, so Francis Lawrence is the director on that, and I loved, watching him come in, how he dealt with the film. I loved how he dealt with the composer.
Right.
I loved everything about it, and I loved the films that he made. He is such a nice person. I would love to score one of his films.
Nice. Well, see, we're putting it into the universe right now.
There you go. Yeah. Are you listening? Yeah.
That's right. And finally, what would you do if you weren't a career musician?
A pastry chef.
Ah. Now that sounds yummy.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be eating all of it as well. No, I love I like baking and stuff like that. I guess that was another hobby that I like to do in free time. I'm just doing less of it now because now one of those small people I mentioned wants to help and takes all the fun away. He goes, oh, sorry, mommy, I dropped the egg.
I could speak from experience. In a few years, they're going to be great at it. My daughter is a little master baker now. So she's 12. It's taken some years to get there, but now she's doing great. So
well, I look
a few
forward
more
to that.
years.
Yeah, no, that's good. I look forward to that. No, it's just, 5, 3, and 9 months. I guess you can't expect much from them, can you?
Wow. I'll say it again, Sona. You are the personification of Wonder Woman in a composer. I love it.
You're very kind. It's I'm not sharing all my low moments here, but
yeah, no, but seriously, to have 3 kids, a husband, 3 kids, and to compose at the capacity to which you are is definitely so impressive. Last thing. So you bake cookies, pies, cakes, pastries. What's your favorite genre within?
Well, I love bread and cake. I guess I love baking bread and cakes. And when it's Christmas, I make like fancy chocolates with interesting fillings and all that stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in Dutch you call them bonbons. It's very in Holland and Belgium they're very, very common. And
Right.
so there you go. That's what I do. And then I hand them out.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's awesome. Well, I wish I lived in the UK to get some of those.
Yeah, next time I'm over, I'll bring some.
That'll be awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it and for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.
The goal of the Career Musician Podcast is to provide valuable insight aimed at supporting working musicians. Please show your support by listening, downloading, subscribing, sharing, liking, and leaving a review.
The Career Musician Facebook group encourages musicians to share both their victories and trials with one another. Join the conversation at the Career Musician Facebook group today.
I'm just a nomad, nowhere man, writing the songs in this one-man band. A nomad, yeah, I'm a nomad, yeah. Hush now, darling, you'll be fine. I'll be back this way.
Hey, this is Nomad, host and creator of the Career Musician Podcast, and I am thoroughly stoked to be an official member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Pantheon Podcast Network is the first of its kind as an all-music-based podcast collective. Please be sure to check us out at pantheonpodcast.com for more info.